sometimes an artist wants to make a new piece of art, but they can't think of something wholly original. And instead of just copying something and rebranding it as something else and calling it new and original, they can do something known as adapting. For instance, the Lord of the Rings film series is an adaptation of the Lord of the Rings book series. And sometimes we get really good new products out of this. We get really cool games based on like Lovecraft and stuff like that. But sometimes we get the Pixels movie with Adam Sandler, which we haven't actually watched. And in today's episode of the Infinite Canvas, we are going to be attempting to make our own little remakes of the Pixels movie. Full disclaimer, if you want good content, skip 30 minutes ahead. I'm only saying that because David, I know for a fact, didn't put the disclaimer in there. So enjoy today's episode of the Infinite Canvas podcast. I'm gonna start recording.
Hey, we don't have to count off.
Huh? We don't have to count off this time!
Yeah!
Oh my god, yes! So, hey everybody, welcome to the Infinite Canvas podcast. If that sounded confusing to you at all.
Wait, I am confused. We've already started?
I guess we have. Well, you can edit out anything you want, bro. Like, you're gonna be much more in control with this episode.
Nah, I am totally gonna leave all of this in.
Oh, of course you are. I already know that. So we're back to the Infinite Canvas podcast. We're doing a callback to the Paul Blart episode. You guys might have remembered from last time. The second time we ever did this.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a while ago we did this, John.
Time is a muddled mess to me. It's not really it's more of a constant than it is divisible.
Okay.
So yeah, if any of this sounds confusing to you, we started using a different program to record instead of our traditional recording 2 sessions from 2 different locations and syncing them up by doing a weird, like, delayed countdown so that David could, like, sync everything up. We're doing multiple streams. I think that's what it's called. I forgot. We're recording both of us talking at the exact same time. So what we hear is what we get.
And by the way, whenever we did those count off things, you never heard them, but they were so weird because since what we hear is delayed from when we speak, so I hear you go 1,
2,
3, and like completely off. And I was like, oh my god, am I actually syncing these correctly? And yeah, that was a pain in the ass.
It sounds like a nightmare. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that. Oh shit, I don't have to deal with that, but whenever I do start editing the sound for the campaign that I have that I'm DMing later on, I have to deal with audio shit, which I normally don't deal with because I'm usually the not that guy. But hey, I don't want to try to like hedge this conversation like we did with the Paul Blart one because I really didn't. It's not that I didn't want to do it; it's just that it felt weird talking about a movie I'd never seen, and I kind of wanted to avoid the subject a little bit. But this time we are going to be doing an episode on Pixels. We're doing a similar thing that we did last time, where we're going to reinterpret the movie based exclusively on the trailer. Mm-hmm. And also, technically, it had a short film before that, which I also used as inspiration, I guess you could say. Not
Wait,
really.
It had a short film?
Yeah, it's based on a short film. Some guy made a short film on YouTube. And then Sony Pictures, I think, or Columbia, somebody got the rights to that, and then they're like, hey, we're never going to use this, so let's let Adam Sandler do it for some reason.
It wasn't the people from like Rocket Jump, is it?
No, Rocket Jump did actually do a spiritual sequel to it. Like, they're not involved with the original.
Oh, okay.
But Rocket Jump did an amazing job with their version of it, and I thought that was awesome. And I'm like, that's what the Pixels movie should have been, but like much, much shorter. Basically, we should have just gotten a Pixels short 2.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember this first one. I'm gonna have to probably look it up or something.
Yeah. I didn't use. I mean, I know it existed. I didn't really use it for inspiration. But while we're here, David, did you want to give a little synopsis on Pixels, if you know anything about it, or you want to try and guess what the movie's about from the
Oh
trailer?
God. Well, from the trailer that I have, did you wait? Did you even see the trailer? Or recently see
Yeah,
the
I saw the
trailer?
trailer.
Okay.
Today I don't think so. I saw it
No,
a couple days ago.
not only today. I mean, throughout this whole process.
I saw it once because I wanted to give myself enough to work with, but not a lot.
Okay. Now, typically, I did read the synopsis, or at least a small summary of the Mall Cop one whenever we did that one.
Right.
I didn't for this one. But I mostly got all of it from the trailer. So, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And by you, I don't mean John. I mean the listeners. But if I'm correct, it starts off, I don't remember what year, but I'm pretty sure it's early in the years, like when they first started launching rockets into space, kind of a year. And they decide to launch a rocket that has a lot of memorabilia of humans. You know, some of the amazing things that we have achieved as humans. And one of those things that they wanted to put in there was some retro games, which they did, and they launched that into space. Somehow, I don't know how it happened in the movie, but all that stuff ended up in the hands of aliens who saw this information and didn't see it as, you know, games that humans made. They saw it as military use games, I guess. I don't know. And so they decide to turn our video games against us by using them in their assault against Earth. So they introduced Centipede. I think Centipede was in there. And what's the name of the ones with the little ships that fly side to side? Oh
It's
God,
either Space Invaders or Galaga.
I think one of those two. I guess I don't know. I don't play much retro games. And then Donkey Kong as well. He was in there, and Pac-Man, which was in the
Because who
cover.
would forget Pac-Man?
Yeah, he was in the cover. And so the United States, I'm guessing, decides that the only way to fight back these I don't even know the creatures, these pixel creations,
Oh,
is to hire like world record holders for these games. Because
not even current ones. I'm pretty sure they're record holders in the past, but not anymore.
it's one of those things where I don't know how having a record of something gives you the mastery in how to combat it in battle. Okay. See, there's this perfect. Okay, I don't know if you have Hulu, but for those of you who have Hulu, there's a show that came out called Future Man. I don't know if you heard of it. Basically, it's that same premise, but done better. Or at least they take that idea and it's done better. It's where in the future they send back a video game in the past, and the game is extremely hard. No one has ever beat the game until one day this dude out of nowhere at a random day he beats the game. He finds out the secret of how to beat it and he does it. And then like this weird portal opens up in his room and you know these two guys come out. It's a chick and a guy. They come out and they're like, "Yes, you did it. You beat the game." He's like, what are you talking about? It's just a game. It's like, no. We sent it to the past because this is actually a training simulator. We put this game in the past because we knew whoever beats this was going to be the savior of our world. And see, that makes more sense. The way Pixel did it was weird. Yes.
I don't know how to tell you this, but we don't even have to record this episode today because that's the answer. That's the one we were looking for. Nobody's gonna hire us anymore because you just gave them the answer and it was somebody else.
But no. Okay, no. But no, because the one thing that everyone liked about Pixels is that it brought some retro games into the big screen. That one didn't have any retro games. It had an original game. So there's still a lot of people who would want to watch our movies. Because we have Pac-Man. I don't have Pac-Man. But that was a poor example.
I'm sure that's a Pac-Man movie. No, that was a great example. Future Man sounds like what Pixels should have been. If we just put some pixels in it, I think we'll be fine.
It had nothing to do about video games. It just happened to all occur because of a video game. But
no, dude, this is perfect. It's like, oh, no. So, like, reinterpreting Future Man, it would be like if you took the concept of pixels, but instead of having the monsters be all pixelated and stuff, they do look realistic. But when they're created, they come from a pixelated video game, and they're reconstructed as real. Now, what's more terrifying, a giant pixelated Pac-Man or a giant flesh Pac-Man? I'll tell you which one sounds more terrifying to me, and it's the one that's not pixelated.
Wait, would Pac-Man be fleshy? I see him as being a bit fluffy, like covered in fur.
No, my dude, he would be fleshy. He looks like a ghoul. He would look like a freaking like a decrepit old sack of skin.
See, I always saw him being hairy, like nice and fluffy, like a nice fluffy ball.
No, Pac-Man is a thing of nightmares if he was real.
Oh, okay. Well, at least we have hope that none of that would become reality.
But you know what I hope does become reality? The fact that I think that I kept with the original script, but just changed, okay. So again, going with I proceeded with the Paul Blart one.
Yes.
I think I just kept what I think happened and then modified it to sound a little bit better. Or at least the way if somebody handed me the trailer and said this is the movie, I'm like, okay, I'll respect that, but I'm also going to change how I think everything plays out. So I don't know what the movie was trying to achieve. I don't know what the theme of the movie was. Do you know?
Nostalgia.
What the theme of the movie was? Okay, so it's nostalgia. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was nostalgia. Nostalgia's cool and stuff. So I thought, okay, this is probably the theme that a smart person would have went with. It's a super easy one, and it's something that I've noticed around in today's day, and it's that nostalgia is nice and all, but it can be kind of destructive. Because it's backwards thinking. It prevents us from moving on forward. But at the same time, nostalgia is also a form of inspiration. Because if we didn't have nostalgia, games like Undertale would never have been made. Because it never would have been... if it wasn't for the nostalgia of Earthbound, we never would have got that. If it wasn't for the nostalgia of the Flesher animation, we wouldn't have Cuphead. And, so on and so forth. You wouldn't have reinterpretations like that if it wasn't for nostalgia. And so that's kind of what I wanted to go with this. So the plot, for the most part, remains kind of the same. And it focuses on nostalgia. And not just the monsters, but also kind of how it affects people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from what I can muster, the four main characters, who I actually looked up their names because I didn't want to just give them fake names. Sam is played by... sorry, I forgot his name. Adam Sandler. I was going to say Adam Savage, and I'm like, that's not right. Will is played by our Lord and God, Paul Blart Mall Cop, also known as Kevin James. There's a dude named Eddie. He's played by Peter Dinklage, who we all know from the Fantasy Dragon show.
I totally forgot he was in there.
Seen. Or, as I remember him, as Simon Bar Sinister from the Underdog movie that apparently people didn't like. And some dude named Ludlow, or Ludlow. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm going to say Ludlow. He's a dork. Very clearly he's the nerd of the group, which is saying a lot considering they're a bunch of washed up people that used to play video games.
Wait, you're talking about the characters in the movie, not the actual people, right?
Yes, I'm talking about the characters in the movies.
Okay.
I remember his name. His name is Josh Gad. I don't know where he's from. I just know him from this. I looked up his name, so. Alright, So it starts off with where they were in the 80s. I don't know how old they would have been, but I'm just assuming they were still adults. And they're all, in the arcade playing their video games, and there's people around from around this time, older people, and they're like, "Oh, look at these people just wasting their lives on this shit. Like, do they have nothing better else to do?" And then the guys are kind of like down, and they're like, "Oh man, no, you know what? Don't let them give a shit. Like we're gonna win this competition, and we're gonna make a bunch of money, get a bunch of sponsors and stuff, and just keep doing this for the rest of our lives." Unfortunately, the video game crash happened, and video games became kind of a not too competitive thing for a while, and so that kind of died out. And they decided that they had to grow up, because they're young adults. They realize that their lives can't be dedicated to this thing that doesn't go anywhere. So Sam decides that he is going to go to college and actually get a life. He ends up getting married, and but in the back of his head, he's just like, "Ah, oh, man, good old days when we played video games, and I was super good at I think Pac-Man. I think he's the one who was good at Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I was super good at Pac-Man and stuff. I'm gonna tell my kids about this. They'll be so proud of me." He's like, "Hey kids, I used to play Pac-Man when I was a kid. I used to be super good at it. I was the champion." And they're like,
Okay.
they're like playing their Xbox games. They're like, "Yeah, cool, Dad." Like, still, like everyone can play Pac-Man though. So like, who gives a shit? What's his name? Will, the Paul Blart character dude,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin James. He becomes president of the United States because he decides, "Hey, I'm going to go into politics." And prior to the scene of the movie, he actually meets Paul Blart and gives him a medal. If anybody saw our Paul Blart episode, you'll know exactly what that is.
Quick thing, I like how you still want to keep those two worlds tied in together. Again, the masterpiece of a movie.
It's a cinematic universe, dog.
Not everything needs a cinematic universe, but
no,
okay.
But the Adam Sandler movies need a cinematic universe. Let's see. There's Eddie. So he's a little different. He was kind of a screwball when it comes to the other guys. He was the most physically aggressive of the bunch. I don't know if that had anything to do with him being short and just being made fun of all the time, and he kind of just got used to not taking shit from people and just kind of like punching them and shit. Mm-hmm. But he was super good at Donkey Kong. Eventually, he kind of gave up because his life wasn't going anywhere, and kind of out of a depressive state, he decides to enroll in the army. I don't know the exact thing that I wanted him to do, but I did want him to be dishonorably discharged, which basically just means that he did some objectively kind of cruel things to other people, and they just decided he wasn't worth. Yeah. So they just kind of arrested him and he's in prison now for pretty violent crimes in the military. So now they're in there. Oh, and then the last dude, his name is Ludlow. He decided to never stop playing video games. And he recently became a YouTuber. So he is a what do you call it? An expert in his field. Now, I don't know how the movie handled this. It sounds like they're just a bunch of nobodies that just knows the president, and that's why they get recruited. So I wanted to give their new lives some level of importance. So I made Adam Sandler's character Sam a kind of an important figure in the government itself. Not very high up. He just works for the government. He just works on computers and stuff. He's a tech expert. And so that gives us an actual idea of why he's involved in all this shit. I don't know what his job was in the original, but I have a feeling it was like some dude at a Best Buy, probably.
Oh, I thought he looked more like someone that played a janitorial role.
Yeah, so, yeah, like, I get exactly what you're talking about. That's what it feels like to me that they were going for. Eddie is in prison. Kevin James is president for some reason or another. Then again, that is kind of true to life nowadays, but I don't think they were expecting anything as bizarre as that back then when they made this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes on for a while. They live their lives, and then I wrote this, and then I realized later This sounds a lot like a Doctor Who thing, and I'm sorry. Um, so they get visited by a bunch of Cuberts and Smurfs. They're just very small, kind of pixelated creatures, and people kind of like get fascinated by this. So the Cuberts and the Smurfs kind of like talk to people and stuff, and they're like, oh, they're so cute. And then humanity's like, oh, we got alien visitors, and they're really nice. And can I just say something really quick?
Uh, sure.
When I said, "Hey, I feel like I stole this from Doctor Who," I was thinking of the black cubes, but then I remembered that they did this thing. They did this exact same thing twice. They did this with the Troglodyteans or whatever they were called, the ball people. That just like they were really nice, and then they turned evil. When um when the Master, sorry if nobody knows what Doctor Who is, when the Master comes to Earth. Also,
Oh,
spoilers if you're for some reason
okay.
stuck on this season of Doctor Who. When the when the Master comes back onto Earth and he's Prime Minister, and then he's like, "Oh, look at all these ball people. They're really nice and sweet, and they're like they become servants and stuff." And so then they, they're really nice and sweet. Everybody has one, and then they attack and kill everyone. So I'm sorry. Sometimes when you say things out loud, you realize where you stole them from. Damn. I can't say the rest of this now. I'm gonna stick with it, knowing full well that I just took this from somewhere else, and that was not my intention. But the Cuberts and the Smurfs are really nice, sweet, adorable scouts. They just kind of like hang around, and then the U.S. government decides to start dissecting them.
Oh
Because
God.
what else would you do with aliens that are non-organic, inorganic? They dissect them. Now here's the thing: the pixels, which is what they were being called, because I refuse to just keep calling them the alien creatures. The pixels actually were peaceful. They wanted to know more about Earth culture.
Mm-hmm.
They got the message. They are peaceful, and so then they came down to Earth and they're just trying to hang out and have a good time. Now, when the U.S. government starts dissecting them, the pixels find out that humans are kind of fucked up, and so they send a message back to the pixel home base, which I will call the desktop. I don't know why I'm calling it the desktop. That's the name of their planet now, or their home ship, whatever it's called. I'm calling it the desktop. So they send a message back to the desktop, and it's like, hey, the humans are violent, aggressive assholes. We need to annihilate them before they can kill anything else. And then the desktop's like, yeah, sure. We're gonna send a couple of troops at them. They send their first wave to attack the Earth. They are space invaders, and when they attack, they notice that they pixelate whatever they touch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the U.S. government is not prepared for this, and they try to attack the space invaders to no avail. None of their weapons do any damage to these creatures because anything that touches them become pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
So, as human beings do, as Americans do, as Markins do, we come up with conspiracies, and there's a ton of conspiracies. And one guy who is right on this conspiracy is Ludlow, the weird dork guy who's also a YouTuber, and so he's full front on this idea that hey, I have a feeling that I know exactly why the aliens are attacking us, and so then he ends up trying to come into contact with the president. Can't, even though they used to be friends when they were younger, and decides, Sam used to work for the president, so he contacts Sam. He can't get into contact with him, so he decides to actually find his house and just like kind of awkwardly like gets in his house. Not he doesn't break in. He just kind of like knocks on his door, and Sam is just like, "Lotto, what are you? It's been years, like 20 years. How did you find me? What are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Can't you see like we're stressed out. We're under attack by these alien creatures." And he's just like, I found out what's going on." And he's just like, no hello, no phone call first. This is what you start off with. I know what's going on. And he's just like, they're video games. And yeah, so then he kind of talks them into it and explains to them what's going on. And they end up going back to the to where he works, which I assume would be the White House. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And as he drives over there, they're actually chased by some space invaders. It's like a chase scene where it's very one-sided. Only one of them has weapons, and they try to escape. And They end up kind of evading it, but their car gets destroyed in the process. They end up at the White House, and the invaders end up stopping their attack. And then they end up coming into contact with the military, the president, and they're like, so it's been a while since I've seen the two of you guys. I'm really surprised that this is how we're bumping into each other again. And then after kind of convincing what's going on, they're like, all right, these things that we're attacking can't be harmed by conventional weapons. This is the president. They can't be harmed by conventional weapons. But we've been studying these guys for a while now, and we think we have a way around them. And then I actually looked up one of the characters' names because I saw her in the trailer, and I wanted to know what her name was, just so I could like not give her a new name. Her name is Lieutenant Colonel Violet. Mm-hmm. Violet comes in, and she's like, so I hope you guys like video games, because we come up with this interesting thing. So after dissecting these creatures for a while, we learn how to emulate them. And I like that word just because if you play video games, you know what that means.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to fight fire with fire, and they're going to fight the pixels with pixels. Mm-hmm. And so then they create. They say that between waves, and as Violet keeps on describing it, she says waves of attacks. Adam Sandler's character Sam's just like, no, wait, better idea, levels. Because if you're gonna make this movie cringy, make it cringy, right? It's like, no, levels. You know, as I say all this shit, I feel like I'm making the movie worse, honestly. I don't think I made it anything better. While this is all going on, people over the United States are like, oh, we're under an apocalypse, and it's all because of video games. See, we told you back in the 90s and the 80s that video games were the devil. Like, we knew what was going on. And then, you know, you see a bunch of church people like, it's like God has smited us because of your dang devil worshiping, your video games, and your Dungeons and Dragons and all this stuff. It's all evil. We told you guys. And then, you know, you get a bunch of kids who are like, oh shit, they were right. Who knew video games were actually violent? So, you know, we get that kind of stuff.
I like how you went all southern there.
Oh, thanks. I've been practicing. And so, you know, it's the world kind of gets under this mindset that nostalgia is the reason why everything has been going on. So they reveal the emulated pixels to the team, and they're like, these devices are called power-ups. They give you guys literal power-ups like you would expect. And the reason why they picked people who worked in video games is because they have a better understanding of because of how the power-ups work, essentially. They're designed in a way where they're intuitive to video games because of the way that the pixels operate. Pixelated weapons tend to not react very well when they're used by someone who doesn't understand their control or the motion of the device. And so then, like, anybody can use them, but it requires a certain amount of, like, actual, like, skill. I'm trying too hard to explain why only they can use it.
Okay. So it seems like you're really stretching it out, but okay.
I am. I'm sorry, I am. And so then, oh god, Ludlow's character ends up actually kind of like, he's been nervous and kind of shy and stuff this whole point in his life, and the video game expert persona that he kind of gave off kind of is the opposite of that. So in real life, he's a mess of a socially awkward person, but in the video game community, he is actually pretty confident. So then he decides that he's going to rile up all of his video gaming fan base, which is a lot. He's like the PewDiePie of this universe. And oh god. Yeah, he's not a weird bro person though. He's just like super dorky. So he's more like a Markiplier, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
He's just really dorky.
I guess.
Hey everybody, I'm Ludlow. I've never seen Markiplier. I just assume he sounds like that. I'm Ludlow, and I play video games and stuff. Let's get to it.
All I know about Markiplier is that he cries a lot. So
all I know is that his brother makes a furry webcomic, and it was #1 on top webcomics for the longest time.
That's where the fan base is at.
I mean, we were on the same page as them at some point, by the way. We were on like the top 50 spots, and he was still #1 or #2. So we were this close to Markiplier's weird brother.
You know, like the gap between those are like very huge. It's like, yeah, we're 50, but the gap is still extremely huge.
It's like the one you go down, it's exponential. We were on the same page though, okay? So let me have this.
I apologize.
Okay. Okay. So then they reveal that they're working on some pixelated shielding that would basically make them invincible. But the downside is that they're vehicles, and that's what the ghosts are. They would protect them from the pixel creatures. And so then
You're still keeping the cars?
yes, I'm still keeping the car. They were the worst part of the trailer, but I'm like, they get invincibility power ups. Wait, hold on. Then they could just beat the bad guys and with weapons and stuff. Okay, it'll just be to protect them. So it'll be like a ball or a sphere or something. I'm like, but wouldn't it be... Oh shit, the cars. Fine, I'll keep the cars. But I feel like if you explain why they exist and not just these are your ghosts because Pac-Man has ghosts. Like no, they're still called ghosts because of Pac-Man, but they have a functional purpose other than just being cars. Oh, by the way, if you haven't noticed, I didn't put Eddie in this part of the movie yet, so I'm just going to. He never ended up becoming important, so I'm editing this now. Eddie's not in the movie at all. I'm sorry.
So wait, why did you put him in?
I was trying to write him like in my notes here. I'm just like, and Eddie shows up. That doesn't work. I'm just gonna write him out. Retcon the beginning of this episode when I said Eddie and Peter Dinklage, and I was like, not in the movie.
He was
he's an
like
unnecessary character.
I mean, yeah, but he was like the only thing that made me even want to watch it.
Really? You sure it wasn't Paul Blart, President Cop? Oh, Jesus Christ. So a few days pass, and they train fighting some emulated centipedes and stuff, and they're attacked by the 4th level. The 4th level shows up, kind of traditional, what they would be expecting. This time, however, they are using pixels against them. So it's not just the military and a bunch of nerds and the 3 main characters using pixels to fight back. But now they're also using other pixelated creatures. And here's the thing. Because Adam Sandler's character is this computer expert. He's got kids who play Call of Duty and stuff. They are making like brand new like pixelated creatures who are like Master Chief. This is basically Ready Player One at this point. Master Chief, you got Ryu, you got a bunch of new characters, and they're wrecking shop. And so the desktop's like, you know what? And they want to play big, we'll play big. And so then they send the 5th wave, which is considered like the final wave. And they send like a bunch of Pac-Men down to like different places on the Earth. Now I know that in the movie, it looked like there was one big Pac-Man that was attacking one city. But I wanted to imagine this as being like every city has a Pac-Man. They are playing hard.
Even though there's only 2 Pac-Mans in existence?
Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and Baby Pac-Man? That's 3, I think. Counting.
Wait, what Baby Pac-Man?
He's not a playable character, but they have a baby.
Oh.
Also, have you ever played Pac-Man Fever? Or, no, I think that's what it's called. Pac-Mania, I think is what it's called. If you ever go to an arcade, there is a 4-player Pac-Man game where you play as a blue one, a yellow one, well, you know, the obvious regular one, a purple one, and a pink one. So there are technically canonically more than 5, there are at least 5 or 6 Pac-Man. But I don't think that the pixels care about how many Pac-Man there are, like, canonically in the story of the game. I don't think the story came with the instructions. But, yeah, so every city's getting a Pac-Man attack, and they're trying to stop all of them, but they can't, there's just too many. And so then the desktop materializes itself down on the planet to kind of like give a message. And to be just basically like, this is what you get for being a bunch of assholes to us. this is our revenge against you, and it's like talking in like a weird guttural English kind of thing. Here's the thing, though: the desktop comes down in the form of Donkey Kong, so that's where we get the Donkey Kong character from. It's not just a bunch of random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the U.S. government kind of figures out, okay, so if this is the main one, then that must mean that if we kill the main one, we kill all of them. And they're basically going to like Chitari this, where it's like, you destroy the portal, you kill all of them. Like, you get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they're like, okay, so we just got to fight this last one. So they get them in their ghosts, and they go try to chase down Donkey Kong. And I think from the trailer, I saw this happen. When they got close enough to Donkey Kong, they actually ended up in another dimension. They got pixelated into another dimension. And so then I kind of thought it would be kind of cool, where when they got close enough to the desktop, it kind of like tried to show them that it was strong enough to kind of like kill them and stuff. So it's just like, I'll humor you, like I'll repixelate you back into my home dimension, and this is where I'm going to kill you. And so then it basically becomes like a video game fight at this point. And I don't know how that's gonna end. I just assume they win because it's a kids movie. They're inside the pixelated world. They end up fighting Donkey Kong, and they find out that the pixel creature's weakness is that they rely too much on patterns and pattern recognition, which is touched on in the trailer, where Adam Sandler's character is like, you gotta look at and anticipate the pattern, and you gotta like adjust yourself to that or something like that. And Donkey Kong is his first game, and the beat thing, it's over, and that's how much I wrote. And this movie sucks more than it used to. So like, the Rotten Tomatoes version of this, it's like, oh, it got like a 16% or something like that. Mine is like a 2%. So like, I just made the movie worse. I'm sorry.
I will tell you this, that with the excluding of Peter Dinklage, I think you said, I swear this could have been the exact same movie.
Hey, look at the bright side. At least I tried to explain everything. I don't think they try to explain anything. Oh my god, I just described the movie. Oh my god, there's a bad taste in my mouth.
Hey, John, so what's your movie going to be about, since you spent like 30 minutes describing what the actual movie was about?
Oh my god! So you're just at this point, you're like, so John, quick question. Yeah? So now that you're done describing the movie, you want to tell us what your movie's gonna be about? Yeah. You remember that? The Hulu show Future Man? It's just gonna be that. So in this fictional universe, in which we have to like turn in this thing as a deadline to somebody who's going to adapt this, it's like, so you told me that your adaptation is basically the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna go with Future Man. So David, I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Not. I'm leaving the podcast. We couldn't even make it to 10 episodes. It's just the David show now. Good luck.
Just, look at the bright side.
The finite canvas. Apparently I couldn't think outside the box. This movie's nothing but cubes, and I couldn't think outside of it.
All I was gonna say is that you have a future working with Adam Sandler in creating movies.
Hey, I have a suggestion. I know you don't like to edit things, but I feel like this episode's only gonna be like 30 minutes long. So if you guys are tuning in right now, that's because David edited out about 30 minutes of dialogue where I just described the Pixels movie. Instead of reinventing it, I just invented the wheel again. And if you had to hear all of that, well, David is going to add in this message that I'm about to say at the beginning. Disclaimer, if you are listening to this part of the episode, skip 30 minutes ahead.
See, I'm going to be the mean guy and put this at the end of 30 minutes. So they'll be like, why did he put this at the beginning?
Spoiler alert, John's idea was unimaginative and shitty.
Oh. At least now I can say I watched the movie.
Don't you dare! I never even watched it.
Oh my it's all good, man. It's all
No,
good.
it's not. Just do yours before you keep on defending me. I know you're defending me out of pity.
Okay.
You know, this is the best comedy we've probably had on this show, and I feel bad about
it. Okay. Well, if you look at the bright side here, if the scenario ever came out that they came in, gave me their rough draft of what they wanted, and then I was supposed to, adapt it, I would probably get in trouble because I changed the whole thing. Like, literally nothing from the original movie is in this, in my version of it. So, if I may, I'll be going next. Okay, so
I'll give you an extra 30 minutes if you want.
I'm okay. Okay, so my movie, everything is totally different. Do not have the same actors because I actually wanted to make a good movie here. So I changed it up a bit. Okay. It starts off the same as the first one, which I think this is how the first one started off. I'm not sure. But it's NASA shooting a missile, or not a missile, a pod up in space with, things that they think best represent humanity. So they load up some music in there, art, some math problems, because anytime they send anything up to space, it has to have math in it. And then the President of the United States decides to add something else in there. Some video games, because he's a video game nerd. Or he used to be a video game nerd. And so he decides to put some retro games in there. And so they, the movie starts off with them loading up a little pod with certain stuff, and you find out that the head research team, or the person in charge of this mission, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But there is something very different about him. Okay, I want to do the same thing they did to which Chris Evans in the Captain America movie, the first one, and make him very, very bony. I mean, as bony as they possibly can, within the budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very nerdy guy, very, no muscle on this dude whatsoever. And he's a bit shorter. And so he's in charge of this mission. And so they get all this stuff loaded up into the pod, and they launched it into space. And this takes place a little bit closer to the future, I guess. And once they launch it up, they start, they're in mission control, and they're studying and observing the pod to see how it's doing, the readings and all of that. And also, because on the pod, they also installed a very advanced camera on there to take pictures of the planets and the moons of the planets as it passes. And so, it's also traveling at a very high speed. And so, they're hoping to not only, send this message out to the universe of humans existing and what they can offer, but they also want to try to get as many pictures of what's out there. And so, this thing is traveling. I had to do some research to see, what is considered fast. And according to the internet, the fastest plane we have travels at Mach 7. So I was like, you know what? This is a bit in the future. This thing is traveling about twice as fast as that. So on the third year of this mission, the pod gets to Jupiter. And this is the first time they're going to take these advanced photos of Jupiter. They're going to get pretty close to the surface, and they're going to be able to take the pretty good pictures of the moons of Jupiter. And so, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who I name Ricky. Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
I don't remember him in the trailer.
He was not in the trailer. He was not in the movie.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
When you say that you were remaking everything,
Yes.
did you replace all the actors or just most of them?
No, I replaced everything.
Everything.
Yes, everything.
Everything went.
Yes.
So when Adam Sandler approached you with this, he's like, I want you to modify my movie. You're like, okay, cool. So we're replacing everyone, including you. I own the movie now! You signed a contract.
I told you I was going to get in trouble for this. But I also said I wanted to make a good movie. Maybe Paul Blart makes an appearance in a mall that gets destroyed. I don't know. But, oh my god, I forgot where I was.
Jupiter's Moons, I think it was after that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who I've named Ricky, he's excited because they're waiting for those photos to come in. It's like every 2-3 seconds, the little pod sends photos back to us. Or to the mission control. And so they're excited, like, oh, these will be the first close-up images we're going to get of Jupiter. And 3 years, it takes it 3 years to get to Jupiter. And so they finally start receiving images of Jupiter. And it's like, oh my god, this is, a advancement in science and all of that. And the only thing is that they, about middle of the day, they receive one more picture, and it has like a lens flare. And they're a little bit confused. It's like, it shouldn't have a lens flare. We'll wait and see when the next picture comes in. And the thing is, again, like I said, they receive pictures like every 3 seconds, every 3-4 seconds. And those like seconds pass, they don't receive anything. And then on their computers, they don't read the pod at all. Like, it's gone. Disappeared from the face of the world. And they're like panicking because they spent a lot of money on this, and just to lose it like that, they're like, oh, they're checking the readings and all of that, and according to the readings, everything's okay. The pod was at 100% from the moment it sent its last picture to the moment it just magically disappeared. And so they're nervous. They're like, oh crap, how are we going to explain this to the president? We spent so much money on this. We can't just lose a pod like this. It's like billions of dollars worth of equipment just lost. And months pass. Like about 3 months pass. And then it's like out of nowhere they hear like a bing. And like, wait, what was that? And it's a photo. And it's a weird photo. It's like, they know it's coming from the pod, but it's like a picture of empty space. And they receive another photo, same thing, empty space. And they just constantly keep receiving photos of just empty space until the last photo it sends a picture of some kind of metallic object. And then nothing again. And they're looking at the readings, and they can't find the pod. It's not registering anywhere. So they're like, how are we still receiving these? And what was this picture? The last picture I sent. So they're confused. They're like, wait, did we bump into life? Is there life out there? Is this what this is? And so they're a bit excited because they found it. They found something showing that there's something out there. But they're also nervous because they still can't find their pod. And so, Ricky, or The Rock, goes and visits the president. And while he's walking up to the president's office, he runs into a familiar face who, in the movie, is called Aaron. But many people will remember him as Tom Holland, a.k.a. Spider-Man. He plays the role of the personal assistant of the president. He is, I do know that the president has like a giant staff, but this is the dude. He's the main guy that he always relies on, mostly because he tries to work really hard to impress the president because he kind of is in love with the president's daughter. He has a little crush on the president's daughter.
Oh, for a second there, I thought you said with the president.
No.
And I was just like, oh, I wonder who the president is.
Oh, no, John. And so...
I'm excited now for who the president is.
And so Ricky, or The Rock, walks up to Aaron, who played by Tom Holland, and has a crush on the president's daughter, to tell him that he's here to meet the president. He has news for them, and they made a major discovery, and they need to know what's next. What's the next action for this? And he goes like, okay, I think he's free. You can come in. And so Aaron leads Ricky into the office, and he goes like, Mr. President, he slams the picture on the desk. He's like, we found life. There's something out there. And he turns his chair around, and it's Liam Neeson.
Oh God, I take back what I said. I just remember the president has to be at least 35 years old. That was going to be weird no matter what.
And his name is Henry Ford. I don't know if you had a president named Henry Ford before.
We did.
Oh, we did? Damn it.
I thought you specifically named him as a reference to him. Wait, did we? No, wait. No, Henry Ford's the car guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think we had a president named
Okay.
Ford.
I wanted to make sure. If you're not on money or had like a movie made after you, I don't know any other presidents. And no, this is not Henry Ford, the car guy, as well. I thought that was a pretty good president name. So Liam Neeson, or Henry, or President Ford. He's looking at the photos. It's like, oh, okay. I'm gonna need you to you don't tell anybody. We can't let this out to the public because there's gonna be panic everywhere. Just keep on monitoring this, monitoring the situation, and get back to me if there's any more advancements in what's going on. And just so I can introduce the other characters, oh God, I forgot where I put their names at on my little thingamabob. In comes his wife and his daughter, so you kind of see that they're there, and his wife, I can't find where I wrote it down, but I went with I don't know if you remember Hunger Games.
Katniss Everdeen?
No, the president's wife.
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
This is gonna be this is gonna be the president's wife, and it's the girl that had in the first movie that had all that white makeup. It was picking out the name.
Banks.
Yes. I couldn't remember.
She did a great Rita Repulsa, also Wild Style from the Lego movie.
But yes, I chose her. I thought she would make a good president's wife. And then for the president's daughter, I wasn't sure who to pick for this. The first one was Sarah Hyland, which is the oldest daughter from the I don't know if you've ever seen Modern Family.
Mm-mm.
Well, that's her. And then I also picked the girl who was in The Fault in Our Stars and Enter Game. I don't know if you've seen that.
What's the name of that girl?
I can't find it. All I know is her last name is Woodley, I think. Woodley? Okay, doesn't matter. But I wasn't sure which one of those two to pick. I was going with Emma Stone first, but then I was like, nah.
I thought you were going to say Emma Stone at first for some reason, and I'm just like, I swear to God, he says Emma Stone. I was going to make a Spider-Gwen joke.
Oh, I could have had her. Oh, man. She did not make my list, so I'm not going to put her on there. Okay, so whichever of these two girls seems better for the role that they're going to play, Ben, I'll choose them, whichever one is there. But yeah, they walk in, and just to show that these people exist. And also during this, The Rock goes home, and or Ricky goes home, so you also see that he has two kids. So just for those characters can be, cemented in the movie, so they just don't come out of random. Uh, we introduce the wife and daughter of the president, and Ricky or The Rock's two kids that he has. And so a few days pass, and after, they're still observing what's happening with the pod, and next thing you know, they start getting readings. Like, hey, something has popped up, in our radar thing. It's like, oh, great, did you find the pod? And I'm like, no, it's not the pod. It's like, oh, well, how do you know? Like, what is it? Well, we know it's not the pod because we're reading three objects, and they're pretty huge. It's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, where are they? They're like, well, they're reading that they're in the same location where the pod went missing. So they're around Jupiter. It's like, okay, um, what are the readings saying? It's like, they're heading toward Earth at very high speed. It's like, how long do you think we have? Well, according to my calculations, we have about 3 days before they get to Earth. And I'm like, oh shit, they go back to the president, and they tell him that, hey, there's three objects that our people found around the same area where the pod went missing, and but they're saying that they're heading towards Earth at a very high speed. I'm like, oh, how long is it gonna take us to get here? It's like, oh, we got 3 days to prepare whatever we're gonna do. It's like, okay, you know what? Get our military, get everything. We're going. I don't know, Arizona. I don't know where they will go to launch these missiles, but we'll prepare everything and see what we can do. And so the 3 days pass, and they see these objects come into our atmosphere. And they're like, okay, we're gonna try to send a signal to them to turn back or to halt what they're doing. So they're sending radio signals up into the air to see if they pick anything up. And there's nothing. There's no response, no nothing. And they finally make it into our Earth atmosphere. They break into Earth's border, I guess, if you will say. And so it leaves them nothing with no other choice but to fire on the three objects. And so they fire up all the missiles, everything hits, and they split apart. And at first they think that it was because of the damage that they took. But the objects were meant to break apart. And out of two of the missiles, or two of the objects, two smaller objects fly out of it. And they just zoom across the sky. And out of the third object, one smaller object flies out of that one, and that also zooms off. They find out that each one of them is like a pillar or a tower that lands in a major city. One lands in New York, one in LA, one in Miami, and only because I wanted to add Texas in there, one in Austin. That's a major city.
Yeah.
And the biggest of them of the five things that broke off actually landed on the White House. Like, literally smushed.
On the White House.
Yeah, it literally landed on the White House. So it's like gone. And a few hours after all that lands and all that happens, every electronic in the area starts receiving a message. And it's a video message. And you can't make out who's talking or anything. It's just three shadowy beings are talking. And they're like, we have landed on your planet in hopes of owning it. We thought we've killed your leader upon landing, but from the look of the wreckage, he was not here. So I'm pretty sure that he's listening to this message. Now, we wanted to come in here and take your planet by force. but we'll give you the better option. Surrender your planet to us, and we'll honor y'all with being our slaves. And they're like, no, we're not going to do this. And it's like, whoa, wait, we'll give you 24 hours. And then he goes like, we've sent a personalized message to the president's phone. So he's the only one that receives it. And there's like a message saying, will you give me your planet? And there's like a box, check yes, box, check no. And I'm like, yep. So whenever you're ready to give us your planet, just check the yes box, and we'll take over from here. And it goes like, again, you got 24 hours. And so there's a countdown going on, and they're like, okay, we're not gonna give. Wait, you have hay on there. What's hay?
It means I wanted to interrupt you without saying anything, so it would be awkward. I'm sorry. Whenever an alien says anything about like you got 24 hours, it's like, do your hours work the same way on your planet too? Well, I'm sorry. That's just a nitpick. It's not against your story. It's just like that's always something that's been bothering me. I'm sorry. You tell your story.
Okay. Well, what I wrote down here wasn't 24 hours. I said you have 1 day.
I'm sorry. No, that's nothing against you. That's just a common trope.
No. Okay. Well, I mean, what I wrote down was you have 1 day, and so that could easily be timed by how long it takes the Earth to spin. I just said 24 hours because I lost my spot on here, and so I just said 24 hours.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. He tells them you got 1 day to answer us back, and so he goes like, the president, Liam Neeson, is like, no, we can't give our planet up to terrorists or none of that. So he goes like, okay, so these things landed. Let's go to the closest one and see what information we get from them. And so, depending on where they are, I kind of want them to go to LA first and go to that tower. And so they head down there, and they're met by a research team that's already there. It's already analyzing the tower. And they're... Oh, damn it, I forgot to do it again. Okay, never mind. Oh my god. Okay, so they go into this tower. This research team is analyzing the tower to see what's it made out of and what's its purpose. They don't find out what the purpose is or what it's made out of, but they do find a weak point in the tower. And they're telling the president, hey, we actually found a weak point in this tower. So if push comes to shove, we know how to take this tower down. And he's like, okay, great, let's do it. And he goes like, but the thing is, we don't know what it does. It's like, so if we take it down or if we damage it in any way, we don't know what the consequence is going to be. And so the president's like, I don't care, take it down. And the scientists are like, you know what? No, we're not, because we have no clue what's going to happen if we do. And so the president, like, in a moment of distraction, steals the plans and runs into the tower. And The Rock joins him. I forgot The Rock was there for a minute. The Rock joins Liam Neeson into the tower to see if they can, tear it down. And they follow the plans and layouts, and they find that thing that they were looking for. They hear noises in the background, and they turn around, and they see Tom Holland there. He had snuck on the ship as well, and to see what was going on. And they're like, hey, what you doing here? And it's like, well, I want to help out as much as I can. And so they finally make it to this area where the weak point is located. And when they make it there, they see what looks like a power source, like a weird energy orb thing that looks to be what's powering the tower. They have they follow the plans, and they're like, okay, well, according to the plans, if we jiggle these wires or mess with these cords, we should be able to short circuit the whole thing, and it should fall and collapse. And it's like, okay, let's go for it. And so they're messing with it, and there is a power surge, like a big power surge occurs in the building, and it releases a bunch of energy, and it looks like they're like each one of them absorbs some of that energy into them, and then but nothing else happens. The tower is still standing, and so the president gets another video message, and it's from the same three beings, shadowy beings, and they're like, "Hey, um, we don't like the fact that you're messing with our stuff. That was not part of the deal. And now, because you broke the deal, now we're only going to give you 30 seconds to choose." And they're like, "Oh shit," and they're counting down. They're like, we gave you enough time to surrender your Earth, but you didn't want to, and you want to play with our stuff. Like, nah, that's not going to take. And the thing is still counting down. It's like, well, we're not going to give you our Earth. We're not going to give you the planet. And so time runs out. And they're like, oh, well, like, at least we still get to take your stuff by force. And so you see these shadowy beings step out, and you see who these beings are. In the middle, you see what looks like Ganondorf. On the left side, you see what looks like Bowser. And on the right side, you see what looks like King K. Rool from Donkey Kong. Ganondorf is played by I chose Benedict Cumberbatch because I thought he would be pretty cool.
They're not pixelated, or are they?
They're pixely looking.
Okay.
Okay.
Before you say anything,
yes,
it's Ganondorf.
Oh wait, did I say Gandalf?
No, you said Ganondorf.
Oh.
Or Ganondorf. You're saying with an L.
Ganondorf. He's the only one that's not pixelated. Only because I wanted to really see Benedict Cumberbatch play him. Bowser and King K. Rool, they are pixelated. And I have Russell Crowe playing Bowser. And then I have Jeff Bridges playing King K. Rool. Only because I like his voice.
So I can see. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to break your thing.
Yes.
Do they look like cartoon characters? Or do they look like an actual turtle dragon but pixelated, and an actual crocodile man but pixelated?
Well, okay. Here's the thing. When I first once I actually sat down and read this, I found out that this movie can never be made because it's all Nintendo characters. So and so I was like, the only way I can get away with this is if they look like real animals, but just pixelated. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. Except for Ganondorf, it's gonna be a little bit weird to disguise him as a villain.
To be fair, Donkey Kong is a character in pixels, and also Nintendo has officially stated they are going to be making movies.
Okay, well, this would have been the first Pixar movie then.
There we go.
Nintendo and so they're like, okay, time's up. You broke the rules. We take over your world. And they each step back from the light, and you see these characters: Ganondorf in the middle, Bowser in the right, pixelated. So it's gonna be all voice acting by that, and King K. Rool on the left, who's also animated and be voice acted by Jeff Bridges, and they all push a button, and they seem when they push the button, all the towers activate. What the towers do is that they activate like a what was it called? An augmented reality field that covers the entire Earth. And with the tower that the three main characters were in, since they were messing with it, they did damage it. So whenever that tower was activated, it had another power surge. But this time it was a lot stronger, and a lot more power was released, and they ended up absorbing a lot more energy. And the thing is, I also mentioned this to you today, and I still somehow forgot to do it. I was supposed to introduce a certain item that each one of them had in the beginning of the movie, so that it wouldn't be just something that, introduced at the end.
You did tell me that, I remember.
And I forgot to do it again.
You didn't tell me the items, you just told me that you had this.
No, yeah, I didn't tell you anything because you didn't want to know anything. But, the thing is that they were supposed to have keychains that were like, what are those little Nintendo things? Adobes? No, not Adobes. Amobis. Is it?
Emoji?
No, the little figures that Nintendo had.
Amiibo.
Yeah, it's amiibos.
Oh my
There
god.
were supposed to be amiibo keychains that each one of them had. Liam Neeson had a Mario one. Uh, Dwayne the Rock Johnson had a Donkey Kong one,
Mm-hmm.
and
Does Tom
Tom
Holland have Link?
Holland has Link.
Yay!
And so
Oh my god.
when the power surge happens, like the second one, it kind of activates their little amiibo keychain things, and then they take on the appearance and the abilities of those little, of their respected figures. The thing is that they don't find out, because when the power surge happens, they get knocked out, and they're actually rescued by the team that were outside, and they're each put in like in a separate room, and as they wake up, they start finding out that they've gone through some changes. I have like Tom Holland. He wakes up first, and he's like he finds that his hair is a lot longer and blonde, and he has pointy ears. He's like, hey, what the hell is happening? And then I have The Rock. He's waking up. Now, he does not turn into an ape like Donkey Kong. He just gets extremely buff. So he looks like himself. Yeah, he looks like himself. Except he has like bigger feet and bigger hands, like the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're like twice the size of like normal hands. And then Liam Neeson wakes up, and when he stands up, he finds out that he's a lot shorter. He's chubby, and he has this amazing mustache. Like, amazing. And, they're all in a separate room, and once they, like, actually meet up, they find out what happened. They're like, hey, am I Mario? And, okay, am I Donkey Kong? Am I Link, whatever? I would think it would be so funny if, like, one of them were like, hey, you're Zelda. And then have it be like, oh my god, no! Kind of a thing.
Oh my god. I don't know if the president's daughter is still there, but I feel like she should be the one saying that.
Oh, no. Oh my god, I totally forgot. During the whole video thing, when they step back to push the buttons, they're supposed to be like, oh, hey, and by the way, before we crushed the building, we actually kidnapped everyone that was in there. And so they were supposed to step back, and you're supposed to see, the president's wife and daughter. And also, I was supposed to mention that the Rock kids are there as well, because before they left, he had sent them to the White House because he thought that was going to be the safest place to be. And so yeah, we have the president's wife playing the role of Princess Peach, the daughter playing the role of Princess Zelda, and then the two kids playing Diddy Kong, and I forgot the name of the little girl. The other monkey girl.
Dixie Kong.
Yeah, Dixie Kong.
Or Tiny Kong. I mean, there's a whole library of Kongs.
Wait, was she?
That's getting into the lore.
But,
the deep lore.
Yeah, that's happened. So, yeah, they finally wake up. They find out, what actually happened to them. They actually find out that they were, in, I wouldn't say a coma, but they were passed out for a while. Like, a couple of days. Like, maybe like a week or two, they've been knocked out. So when they walk out, they're met by, the research team again. They're like, okay, Mr. President, don't know what's going on with you right now, but the whole world is a disaster right now. It's like, wait, what's going on? What did the towers do? And when they walk out, they see that all of the little villains in these games are running around, and they're pixelated. They're like completely 8-bit, 16-bit characters. So you see little Koopas and Shy Guys running around, destroying the buildings. You see, whenever it turns at night, you see those little zombie creatures from Zelda crawl up from the floor and start destroying everything. And then I can't remember what villains are in Donkey Kong other than like the bees and like
the beavers.
Crocodiles.
You got Naughties. You got Kremlins. Dude, Donkey Kong's the shit. Donkey Kong's the best.
I haven't played many Donkey Kong games, but you have a few of Donkey Kong's villains, whatever. And so, it takes them a while, but they finally understand that, hey, we don't only look like these characters, we have these characters' powers. And so Liam Neeson finds out that he can jump pretty high, and whatever he lands on gets completely smushed no matter what size it is.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And then The Rock finds out that if he slaps his hands together really hard, it creates a very powerful sound wave that destroys anything. And also, if he jumps from a high place, he can helicopter anywhere. I don't know how to add that in a thing yet, but I really want to add that somewhere. And then Tom finds out that he's really good with a bow and arrow and a boomerang and a sword. I don't know where he picks that up, but he finds them. And so, basically, the whole thing is that they team up to destroy the first tower in Los Angeles. And they do. All three of them. And so they're like, okay, great. That leaves 4 more. One in Texas, one in New York, and one in Florida, plus the one in DC. So each one of them goes and to destroy one of each of the tower. And the thing is that once a tower falls, that doesn't end the field it produces. The only reason why there's so many is because the further away you get from a tower, the weaker the creatures are, and so the more you use, the stronger they are. So even if there's all but one tower remains, it still projects a whole field around the Earth. It's just that the further you get from that tower, the less, the smaller the creatures get. So, that's less destructive force.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they did destroy the one in Los Angeles, they're still smaller versions of those creatures, causing a bit of terror in the streets. And so they find out that they have to destroy all 5 of them. Oh, the 4 remaining ones. And so they do. And so that's pretty much going to be like, I don't know if that's a montage scene or that's later added on, but they go and destroy the rest of the 3 of the 4 towers before they meet up in DC. And so they finally meet up in DC to attack the main tower. And so, also because I realized that there wasn't many retro games in there other than the Mario one, I decided to add Duck Hunt in this. Mm-hmm. And so once they get to the tower, they see a lot of ducks, like, on, the White House garden. It's like, wait, why are there so many ducks? And so, it's like, I don't know, but we're gonna run in there now. And so once they open the gate, all the ducks fly up, and they start, like, suicide diving and exploding once they make contact. And so they're like, oh crap, these ducks, they explode. These are not regular ducks. And so I want to have, like, this, I don't know, I probably put Kevin James in here maybe. He comes in as, like, don't worry, I got this. He takes out a gun, and he starts shooting all the ducks as they fall. So there you go, ducks as they fall. So there you go, a duck hunt reference.
You gotta put him in his uniform. I'm sorry. He's protecting a mall. This scene takes place in a mall. I'm controlling your story for 2 seconds.
They're supposed to be at the White House.
I know. I'm sorry.
And so,
White House Mall. It exists.
And so, I'll keep Kevin James just to be in this role then. He comes like, don't worry guys, I got this. I'm an expert in duck hunt. And so he starts shooting the ducks before they can make contact. And so he's providing cover for them as, as they make it into the tower. And so, each one fights their respective villain. The Rock fights King K. Rool, and Mario fights Bowser, and Tom fights Ganondorf. Correct? Yes.
So close.
Yeah. Gandalf the Grey. That's who he fights. And so they win. They beat them because heroes always win. President Liam Neeson saves his wife and kids that were taken. Taken reference there.
Is this what this was all for?
That's the only reason why I wanted to add him there.
So this isn't Pixels. This is just Taken 4 or 5 or whichever one it was.
John, I'm gonna edit this whole thing out too, and I'm gonna save this for our Taken 5 episode.
Dude, that sounds like a freaking amazing idea for an episode. Because I haven't seen the Taken movies, and I know you have.
But yeah, they all beat their respective villains. And so he saves his wife, who is Princess Peach in this, and they smooch. Tom saves Princess Zelda in this case, and also smooches. And Rock sees his kids, and they give him a smooch on the cheek. And so they destroy the tower, and the whole world is saved. And they celebrate. They give the Rock the, highest medal of honor they can give him. They give
a high five.
Yes,
that's the highest medal of honor I can think of.
And Tom also gets the highest medal of honor they can receive, and life is great. The only thing is that they're confused because they don't know how to turn back to normal. So they're kind of stuck the way they are, but everyone's pretty okay with it. They're like, hey, I don't mind being buff. And Tom is like, hey, I don't mind being good with weapons. The only one that really has an issue here is Liam Neeson, because he's now short, chubby, but he still has a rocking mustache. And so, they saved the world. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Movie ends. All that tag scribbles over. And, what? There's a post-credit scene? Yes, there is. Do you see, at the very end of our galaxy, you see a ship flying in high speed. And it just passes by, like, the speed of light. And right behind it, you see tiny yellow, red, and blue ships flying by that looks like Galaga ships. And then you see centipede creatures fly by. And then it ends there.
So you're telling me that the sequel is just the actual Pixels movie? Can I just say something?
Yes.
So, when I asked you about this episode...
Yes.
I didn't expect you to do this. Then again, I didn't expect to just say what Pixels was. But I wasn't expecting the Super Smash Bros. Avengers. That's what this was. And I'm not disappointed in that at all. It's just because I'm like, you may have just realized there's not a Super Smash Bros. Movie. That would actually be really cool. And it's like, it combined a lot of elements together that I wasn't expecting. It felt like Jumanji at first when you're like, oh, they turn into the video game avatars. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess Rock's doing that again. Then, Jesus. There's an old TV show called Captain N the Game Master.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this only feels like the spiritual successor. Like if they remade it, that's what this would be. This would make a really great TV show. Like, if you just kept on doing more of these. And I'm like, you would never run out of material because there's so many video games.
Yes. The only thing is, I don't know if we would run problems with the Nintendo. Because I use a lot of Nintendo stuff. I did not mean to. I know Nintendo... Okay, well, I know retro games is what's considered, like, on the Super Nintendo or on, like, the Sega or Atari. And I went with, like, a lot of more modern stuff, like GameCube stuff. So, there's that. But at least it did introduce Galaga and Centipede at the end.
Right.
No Pac-Man.
I just wanted to say, if you guys stuck around this long, I'm very sorry you guys had to stick around for the first 30 minutes, but quick 1 minute, I'm gonna revise my story because I realized that it would have been more interesting to keep it like the original clip, where the monsters didn't seem to be coming from another planet, but they actually just came from our world, like a Digimon kind of thing, where they just kind of like, oh, they came out of our computers. Because halfway through thinking through David's story, I remembered, oh, that's the plot of Tron Legacy. That would have been a lot better than just copying pixels. It's like, oh, that's what the bad guys wanted to do in Tron Legacy. What if that actually worked? Oh shit. Oh, here's a bunch of video game monsters trying to kill us all. They're trying to get their revenge on us because they were real this whole time.
Oh god.
That would have been so much more interesting than than what I did. I do like how your pixel monsters actually had like character.
Oh god. I didn't want to do a lot of like dialogue for them because I'm not a voice actor.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of dialogue that they would have said. I just forgot to read.
That's all good.
Plus, I think Benedict Cumberbatch would make a great Ganondorf.
Okay, I sent you a message telling you how it's spelled.
Ganondorf.
There you go.
I think you're going to give me the most, crap about me saying this than anybody else.
Maybe.
I don't know. At least I didn't call him Gandalf.
Huh?
At least I didn't call him Gandalf.
No, that's true. You put an extra D in there.
Gandalf.
Okay, so I think that wraps it up for today.
Yes.
We haven't decided what we're going to be doing next week. I have a feeling that we're going to take it kind of easy next week, though, because if David has any indication, I have complained about this episode for a while now. Because I was the one who came up. I think we both came to the conclusion together, where I was like, "Hey, I want to do another Paul Blart episode, where we take another old movie and just kind of like that we've never seen and just kind of like redo it." And he's like, "What about Pixels?" And I'm like, sure, Pixels is a good movie to go with. It's same territory and just a little different." And I had to come up with ideas. And as you guys could kind of tell, I wasn't very good at it. Because this is the most amount of homework that I have ever had in any semester of school. And I don't understand why it's just happening now in my final semester when all of my classes are electives.
Well, that's what you get when you try to take school easy. Take it easy in school with electives.
But it's my last semester. I can't afford to fail any classes. I literally can't afford to fail any classes because I have a loan.
Well, John, I mean, look at the bright side. If you don't make it this semester, you'll definitely make it next semester.
No, because I'm just going to drop out of school then. I give up after this. I'm sorry. Come May, if I'm not out of school, I'll never go back.
Oh, God.
Also, when we graduate, expect to take an episode. Preferably, I would have seen the movie and we just make a sequel. I don't want to do this bullshit with a good movie.
They're already making a Taken sequel.
Wait, Taken 4, we're on the train?
Yeah, the one where they're on a train and they steal Liam Neeson's train, so then he has to go get his train back.
And then there's Taken 5, which is this movie. Taken 5, Electric Boogaloo. And then we got Taken 6. This time I'm the kidnapper? Yeah, by the way, plot for Taken 6. I'm the kidnapper? He ends up kidnapping John Wick's dog. Or new dog, I guess he gets a new dog. And John Wick has to kill him.
Oh, God. Wait,
yeah,
the dog?
No, not the dog! Why would John Wick kill his dog that's been kidnapped?
I didn't understand what you were saying.
I'm sorry.
Why do you want to kill a dog?
Okay, so Liam Neeson accidentally kidnaps somebody very close to John Wick. And so then John Wick has to go and kill Liam Neeson because he accidentally kidnapped somebody. Now, when I say accidentally, I'm assuming that he's like he's just driving and somebody ends up in his car. I don't know the exact plot, but that's Taken 6! I'm hoping.
Oh my God. Okay, we can't do this. Okay, we can't. We just can't constantly be making Taken movies. It's gonna get to the point where we're gonna have to CGI Liam Neeson into these movies.
Taken 7. All the good ideas have been taken.
Oh my god, I think that would be a great movie. Ugh. Okay, we can't do this.
It's like Fast and the Furious. It's easy. Speaking of Fast and the Furious, Taken 8. The Rock is in this one.
He's already in the fifth one.
In the fifth Taken movie?
In our fifth Taken movie.
Oh shit, he is! Taken 9. Is this seat taken? Okay, this is going up.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think that's enough.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so very much, guys, for tuning in today's episode. Do want to give a really quick little thing that I want to say. Our comic series, Curse Quest, actually just updated over the last weekend, and if you guys want to go ahead and actually give that thing a look, it's on Sci-Star.net, which will let you see our entire comic, Curse Quest. For the most part, we should have planned out one new page every Friday for the rest of February. We're going to see if that's the schedule we're going to stick to, or we're going to update it differently for March. But for February right now, it is going to update once a week on Friday. And we hope that you guys do catch that. Also, next week's episode, we are going to be doing a little different thing. I know we say that a lot, but we are going to, instead of making something, we are actually just going to chat a little bit about what we are calling our guilty pleasures. So if you are interested in that, tune in next week.